Hello, Steelers fans. Welcome to another episode of Steelers Q&A. I am Tony Defeo, and I'm joined by Jeremy Betz, and we're
What's
here
up?
to bring you another round of quote-unquote expertise. So how you doing, Jeremy?
Hey, I'm doing great. It was a fun day, but it was a busy day. So
Father's Day.
enjoying being a dad on Father's Day. So
So you said it's your second Father's Day?
yeah, my little girl will be 2 in September. So
Oh, okay.
we're
That's awesome.
yeah,
So
man.
she couldn't get you a tie then, so you don't have to worry about that for a few more years.
Right, not for a few years. My wife asked me if I wanted one. I said, "No, I got plenty of those. Let's do something else." So yep,
Well, that's awesome.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't have any kids, and I
okay,
never knew my dad, so that's a holiday I always forget about. But
sure,
it's great that you're able to celebrate that.
yeah,
Before
yeah,
we begin tonight's show, I just wanted to ask you a question. I always ask this to people I'm not that familiar with. I was looking at your tweet a few months ago when you were at M&T Bank Stadium. That the what's it called the tweet that you leave up. What's that called? The pinned tweet.
Oh yeah, pin
When
tweet.
you
Yep, the
yeah
one
when
I
you were
had.
at that great ending.
Oh
Um,
man.
where are you from?
So my dad is from Pittsburgh. He grew up there. Then
Okay.
he joined the military, and so I was born overseas in Turkey, and we lived up in the Dakotas and Montana my whole growing up life. But now I've settled down in Asheville, North Carolina, and my
Okay.
dad lives on the East Coast with my mom and um, her parents. So we're pretty close, and that's nice. And but yeah, so I grew up in the Dakotas, but diehard Steelers fan since little, just because dad was from the Berg. So
That's all, who was there with you that day? You guys were celebrating the Boz game winning field goal in overtime that clinched a playoff spot, or
yeah,
not
so
clinched, but
right,
the Chargers and Raiders almost screwed it up. But you thought at the
they,
time that it was a foregone conclusion.
right. I know after Jacksonville had pulled off the unthinkable and beaten the Colts, and I was like, man, this is it. If the Steelers can hold on to this game, we're as good as in. And then, man, the Raiders and
Yeah.
Chargers like to take 10 years off my life
Oh my
there.
gosh.
But yeah, so I was there with my mom and dad, and my brother Drew, and that was his first game seeing Ben Roethlisberger play live.
Wow.
So we
Wow.
had gone to a game in Pittsburgh in 2019 when Roethlisberger was out with an injury. It was the Steelers Rams game. Mason Rudolph made the start, and I think the defense, Minka Fitzpatrick, scooped up a
Hmm.
fumble, returned it for a touchdown. The defense really
Right.
won the day for us, but my parents surprised us last minute with tickets to go to M&T Bank and see Roethlisberger's final game, and we got excited because it came down to it, and we got the win too, and ended up clinching a playoff spot. So that was an incredible moment.
Yeah, and it was something you didn't really expect. I don't think anybody expected Jacksonville to win that game, to beat the Colts, and that's, like, to me, it's a lesson that I always try to remind people of, that you can derive so much satisfaction out of one little moment like that. It's not always about the Super Bowl, because if you just live for the Super Bowl, you're going to be miserable like 99% of the time as a fan. So
Right.
you have to appreciate those little moments. And I was working that day.
Okay.
I was like going through heck in my new job. Now it's my old job because I don't work there anymore, but it was my new job and I was totally overwhelmed. But my brother called me and said, "Oh, the Steelers, did you see the Steelers won?" I said, "No, I didn't see anything because I am working and I'm totally miserable." And I was almost in tears, but
Oh
that
man.
got me through the rest of the day.
Sure.
And I knew that they were probably going to lose to the Chiefs, even though
Yeah.
we all had hoped that they would find a way to win. But
Yeah, and
that,
then TJ Watt gave us big time hope in the
yeah,
first quarter there, and I was like, this ain't gonna happen, is it? And
yeah,
it didn't, but at least we had a ride last year. So
yeah. I mean, you know, they weren't aesthetically very pleasing last year on offense at
no.
all.
Mm-mm.
And they probably had no business making the playoffs. But so for them to make it, that was a magical thing.
Yep.
And I don't know how old you are, but I'm 50, and I remember that '89 season when they were kind of a bad team and they somehow snuck into the playoffs and took it one step further and won. And I still
Sure.
remember that 33 years later, and I cherish it. And I go back and watch it on YouTube. So it's the little moments that we should all appreciate, because you're not always going to get a Super Bowl. I've seen 3 Super Bowls since I started watching them. Super Bowl wins. So
Sure. There you go. Yeah, you're exactly right. You got to enjoy all the moments with it. I think we tend to get caught up in Super Bowl or bust. That should obviously be the team's mentality, but you got to enjoy the little moments,
right?
The big time players and the big time wins and the comebacks and the little things that separate Roethlisberger from being an Eli Manning type quarterback who won 2 Super Bowls to this guy's no doubt a Hall of Famer because he did things so totally different.
Right.
And, you may not, some people out there may not think Roethlisberger was the best quarterback ever, and he wasn't, but he was one of the most unique ever, and he did it in a way where when he was winning Super Bowls and getting to the big game, he was just as big a part of it as anything else. So I loved every single moment of these last few years, and that being Roethlisberger's final game was really, really neat.
And for you to be there to see it, that had to be so special. And to illustrate just how special Roethlisberger was. And by the way, I think he was a much more disciplined quarterback that people gave him credit for, because they always thought of him as the schoolyard quarterback, backyard kind of quarterback who improvised everything. But you don't have the kind of consistency that he did through the majority of his career, unless you were prepared and disciplined. And look at his career rating. It was like 90 or 91, whatever it was. That's pretty darn good, So.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And last year, how many, as bad as he kind of was, I think the writing was on the wall for him last year. How many fourth quarter comebacks, including the one that game you were at, did he lead? That was overtime, but did he lead last year? So even when you're on your last leg as a great superstar, future Hall of Famer, you can still find the magic every now and then. So,
oh yeah, no doubt.
Well, now that we've got warmed up,
sure.
This show's about you guys out there in the live chat and asking questions, and we're going to try to answer them. I know Jeremy and Andrew Wilbur, you're on the Steelers Fix every week, right? What day is that on?
It comes out on Tuesdays at noon every week. So
now that you've go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say we're transitioning into a lot of fantasy football stuff. So if that's your thing, that's the show to listen to. We're going to break down, I think, like an all potential draft team coming up. Guys that we think will be available based on ADP in each round that have the biggest potential to break out. And if they do, they're going to be superstars. So tune into that show on Tuesday. It's going to be fun.
I think it's just a guess, Jeremy, but I think you're going to have a lot of people who are interested in that sort of thing. For some reason, I get the feeling fantasy football is kind of popular. So
yeah,
I'm sure you're going to find a big audience for that. And speaking of you and Andrew, do you think Andrew, he's so thorough with his draft cover? Do you think he's already onto the 2024 prospects? He's probably already through 2023, right?
Yeah, I mean, he probably has every player's name memorized and everything going on. He's just a wellspring of information. He's an encyclopedia of these guys. So I'm sure he's got his eye on some 2024 prospects, especially in the Big Ten where his Michigan boys play. So he's got his eye on all of it, I'm sure.
I don't know how he does it. He's in college. I don't know how he even finds the time to study, but he's a wonderkind.
Yeah. I thought I was a diehard fanatic, knew all the players, knew everything until I met him. And then I'm like, man, I got some work to do.
Yeah, well, you guys are a great combo. I love listening to your podcast and reading your work on the site. So you guys are good, and that show is going to be good. And you guys tune into their show every week. They're both a wellspring of knowledge. So please check that out.
Well, hey, I think we should look at Sherry Richards' comment here in talking about fantasy football, and she notes that you did announce that you were retired from fantasy football. So I'm guessing you won't be tuning into the Steelers Fix.
I don't know. You might your show might pull me out of that. I don't know.
Oh, hey, do a turn a Brady in, huh?
Yeah, or
you go.
Brett Favre. Brett Favre. Maybe I'll come back and
Hey, that's right.
draft a bunch of Vikings players. Like Brett. So you never know.
There you go.
But yeah, let's see what we got in the live chat as far as
Sure.
questions. Yeah, there's I brought up the wrong one. Here it is. Yeah, I retired, but you never know. It's like the rappers. They always say they retire. Like Jay-Z retired for like 9 minutes. Maybe it's gonna be one of those retirements. You never know.
There you go. You sign a 1-day deal.
Right. Yeah.
Get it done.
That was actually the
right.
the basis of it. Yeah.
Cool deal.
All right. Let's see. We have Russ Obenstein, Gene Smith, Dave Wallencheck, who wants us to be on his radio show. So you never know. Maybe we can have to ask Brian about that. John,
Sure.
Gene Smith, Brian Brown. All right. Ready for some questions there, Jeremy?
I'm ready. Let's bring it on.
All right. Let's see what the first one is from Shaquille Gregory from Facebook. And they ask, if you had to guess, what do you think the Steelers' next big move will be, whether it's signing somebody or cutting somebody or even maybe an extension? What do you think, Jeremy?
Well, I would hope that they'd go find themselves a defensive tackle. There's a lot of good names out there. Larry Ogunjobi is out there. Ndamukong Suh is out there.
Yeah.
You got guys like Eddie Goldman from Chicago who's still out there, a good run-stopping player, a young guy still, not even 30 years old. And I think you see some of these defensive tackles, these interior defenders, they age pretty well, especially if they're run-stopping. If run-stopping is kind of their go-to as far as what they're famous for. So some of these guys, I think even Sheldon Richardson is available. Let me think. Danny, oh man, I can't think of his last name. Danny Shelton. That's who I'm thinking of.
Okay.
He's still available. A run-stopping guy. I think the Steelers need to find somebody to get out there and replace that production that Stephon Tuitt brought to the team. And right now they're going to be relying on guys that they were hoping would be more like depth pieces, Montravius Adams, Isaiah Loudermilk, and even rookie DeMarvin Leal, however you pronounce it.
We'll find out soon enough.
Right, exactly. We got to hear him say it once.
Right.
But somebody let those guys develop into those, or fill in those role playing spots as opposed to an every down starter, and you take a lot of pressure off those guys, and you get a guy in that has starting experience and is going to provide you quality snaps as a starter. And I think you're in better shape already. Defensive tackle is where I would go next.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I can certainly see them doing that. I mean, I'm intrigued by the young guys. Obviously, I like what I saw from Loudermilk last year. I don't know how you feel about him.
Yeah.
As far as his potential. And of course, I'm intrigued by Leal because, I mean, he was such a highly talented prospect going into 2021, and then he kind of dropped off as the season progressed. And but he was around the top 50 all throughout the pre-draft process. So I mean, he is an interesting prospect. It's just a matter of if he can find the right fit.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily know if it was that he dropped down draft boards or other players rose up draft boards
there you go.
that really affected him. So the Steelers, early in the process, we thought maybe this guy's a back end round one guy. So if you're looking at what the Steelers hauled in their first 3 picks, their first 4 picks, you got a guy who was touted as potentially a top 6 overall pick this year in Kenny Pickett at 20. Good value there if you think of it from that perspective. And then you got George Pickens, who, barring injuries in college, probably would have been the first wide receiver off the board in this draft class. In round 2, the back end of round 2, and then DeMarvin Leal, a guy that was touted as maybe a back end round 1, early round 2 guy in the back end of round 3. So if you're looking at value that the Steelers got without moving up and down draft boards, they nailed it.
They did it. I like the, as they say, the haul that they got, especially over the first 3 picks. And I'm more inclined to use this year, if I'm the Steelers, use this year to see what you have with all the younger linemen and letting them play with Hayward and Alualu, forgot his name,
Yeah.
Alualu. That's what I'm inclined to do, but I kind of
Sure.
get the feeling, since they're always in it to win it, even when maybe other people are questioning them, I kind of get the feeling they're going to go out and bring a veteran in.
Yeah.
But that's just my gut feeling. Again, if I were doing things, obviously I'm not an expert, but if I were running things, I would like to see what they could do, but the younger guys,
Sure.
but I get the feeling they're going to go in another direction. All right, let's see what else we have here. Gary Chandler, who joins us from Facebook also. Whoops, wrong one. You guys are going pretty fast. I wonder if Kenny Pickett will get a start like Ben did if Mitchell Trubisky gets injured or plays poorly. What do you think about that, Jeremy? Do you think Mitch has the inside track of starting?
I do. I have recently kind of swapped my thinking a little bit. I originally, when the Steelers made the pick, I was like, you don't pick him, who's in reality a Mitchell Trubisky clone as far as what was available in the draft class. Athleticism to roll out and make plays outside the pocket, can run if called upon to do that, but really not the biggest arm, but a smart player, a guy who can play on the run, which is what Matt Canada is gonna be pushing in his offense this year. So, I was like, man, you don't take him if you believe in Mitchell Trubisky as a potential starter, but it's really true. I think a good scenario to kind of look at is the Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre situation. I know we're talking about two Hall of Fame level guys,
right,
in that conversation, but Rodgers sat on the bench for 3 years, I believe, before becoming the full-time starter for Green Bay after Brett Favre decided to move on. The Steelers could easily do that with Kenny Pickett. I know he's a little older. He's 24 already. But they could easily do that with Kenny Pickett and get 1-2 good years out of Mitchell Trubisky, let him play out his contract, and then see what you got in the rookie at that point. Let him learn for a couple years. And if Trubisky kind of strikes me as a guy who was in a bad situation in Chicago, they weren't using him correctly as far as his strengths and weaknesses go. Matt Canada's offense fits those strengths and weaknesses a lot better. And so if you see him make strides quickly, then I think Pickett might ride the bench. But if there is an injury to Trubisky or he does come out poorly, I could see Pickett getting starts pretty early before the week 9 bye easily, if the Steelers are struggling on offense and are looking for a kind of a spark to assist a defense that I think will bounce back a little bit more than and be a little bit better than they were last year.
Yeah, I was listening to Jim Miller the other day. He's a former Steelers quarterback who I think he lasted like 2 quarters before Bill Cowher replaced him, but he went on to have a great radio career. He's obviously he knows about Trubisky and the Bears, and he described Trubisky's speed. You mentioned his running ability as elite, so he's elite level in that regard. And as you said, that fits perfectly with what Matt Canada likes to do with his offense. So I think it seems to me like it would be Trubisky starts and he probably plays half the year and then he put Pickett in. That seems to be what teams normally do. But I mean, if he finds that magic, the number 2 overall pick in 2017, if he finds that next level to his career, then you have a great problem on your hands.
Yeah,
because you have still a relatively young quarterback, and he'll be 20. What is he? 28 now. So and these guys can play for 10 years. So if Trubisky takes it to the next level, he turns out to be Kurt Warner or whatever, and he finds his groove in his late 20s, and you worry about the other stuff later. But when you're talking about a young, the thing that's what's so intriguing about this is because when you have when you draft a quarterback in the first round, I think you want to find out about him as quickly as possible. You want to give him 2 or 3 years to develop as the starter, not just on the bench, because the sooner you find out about him, the quicker you can make a decision financially. You have to invest a lot in these guys now, and even $20 million, which is the low rate now for a starter, a good starter. Once they get close to the end of the rookie deal, you have to look with Sam Darnold what the the Jets, they had to make a decision
Right.
by year 3, so they wound up they shipped him off to the Panthers. So
yeah,
and they wound up picking up his option, right? Is that correct?
They did. Yeah, I think they gave him that second year to try to prove that he could do it, and then this is it if he can't. So
right, and I think
the one thing I think the Steelers have going for them is Trubisky's not going to cost them a lot of money either these first 2 years. So if he's there, he provides them that low cost, really good quarterbacking. If that's what ends up happening, then it's not going to be something that the Steelers are like, whoa, let's get Pickett in really, really quick here. I think there's more pressure to do that nowadays. All these first round quarterbacks that we've seen that have had success very early in their careers. And I mean, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, guys like that. But, Josh Allen took time to develop as a player, and it took starting reps for him to get there. Pickett seems a little more pro-ready. I think if he just learns the offense and gets to know the system, and it takes him a year or two to really do that, then that's okay. And you can still justify the first round pick because it was the back end of the first round by taking a guy later like that who has potential down the road. If your placeholder doesn't work out, or if your placeholder is really good and then you get some trade value out of him after a year or two, and you want to ride with the young guy that you spent draft capital on.
Yeah, I think if both guys can develop, although Trubisky's already fairly developed, but if he can take it to another level, and if Pickett proves to be a great young prospect, then that's a great problem to have. So
yeah, absolutely.
It's going to be the most intriguing training camp I've seen in 20 years, 18 years, I guess.
Sure. Yeah, it's going to be crazy.
It's going to be insane, especially if speaking of quarterbacks, if it's a 3-way battle, which a lot of people don't want because they don't want Mason Rudolph to be part of that battle. But is it? And Brian Brown asks, who comes to us from YouTube, is it true that the Steelers are asking about a 5th round pick for Mason Rudolph? I haven't heard that from anybody official. Have you?
Not officially. It's rumored. I believe it was one of the Steeler insiders, Steeler beat guys, that mentioned that's what he's hearing inside the building, but it hasn't circulated the mainstream media. So I think it's more rumor than necessarily accurate, but it did seem to come from a source inside the organization. And it would seem to make sense. I think they got a 5th round pick for Josh Dobbs a couple years ago.
Right.
And Rudolph's probably a little better than that, but he, his tape, he looks a little slow to process and things like that. But I mean, if you listen to some of the guys that watch minicamp, he looked like the best guy out there. And I know you're talking, he knows the system. He's been there. He's the most comfortable guy there. That's really all that is to me, is that you see that comfort level there. But maybe that parlays it into a decent preseason showing. And the Steelers seem to be more interested in moving on to either Trubisky or Pickett, obviously, by the way their offseason went, than really giving Mason a true shot. And if they can get some quality snaps and quality looks out of Mason in the preseason, a 5th round pick would probably be decent compensation for a backup quarterback, unless a team loses a player due to injury and they're really desperate and they're like, hey, we'll give you a 4th for this guy. And then I think if you're the Steelers, you jump on that like a duck on a June bug, as my granddad would say.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned he knows the offense, and I think that's the intriguing part about him, is because he really didn't have much of a chance to run the offense, when the Bullets were live, because he always had to come in and sort of spot start. So this is the first time he's really had a chance to prepare to compete for a starting job the entire offseason. So it's going to be intriguing. I mean, in a weird way, I think it'd be kind of neat if he came out and played head and shoulders above everybody else, because it would give first of all, the fans would freak out because they've already decided to move on from him. But to me, it's all about finding the best guy.
That's right. Yeah. You take whoever's going to fit that role the best and give you the best chance to win.
Right.
It doesn't matter what you're paying them or what they've looked like so far in their career. If they even haven't even had a career in Kenny Pickett's case so far in the NFL, you go with the guy who's going to give you a shot to win against the Cincinnati Bengals in week one.
And that's the conundrum with a lot of these young quarterbacks is,
Yeah,
unlike any other position, they basically have to sit and learn and they have to come in and be ready. Whereas these other guys, whether it's you're a backup linebacker or whatever, you get reps during a game. You get to play on special teams. You get used to live NFL action during the regular season. Quarterback, you just sit and you come in, and if you play poorly for a game or two or three, well, then people have already decided it's time to move on. And the odds are against Mason Rudolph, but I'm hoping for a great three-way race because that would mean that whoever they pick is going to be pretty darn good.
That's right.
All right. Brian Brown says maybe Mason should grow a stash like Landry Jones. I didn't know he did that, but
me neither. That's funny.
Steelers Freak says, and he's a regular.
All right.
The O-line will determine success, whomever is quarterback. Well, that's true, but I don't know I'm sure you agree with this, Jeremy.
Yeah.
You have three guys, I think even Rudolph's more mobile than Ben was at the end. You have three guys who can move around now. So
there's a couple trees in my front yard that are more mobile than Ben was last year. So.
And he was a great athlete in his day.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
He just got beat up. I mean, he took a lot of hard shots. The officials seemed to, allow teams to give teams liberties against him. Guys like him and Cam Newton, when you're big and strong and tough, and Josh Allen will find that out soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
But no matter who the quarterback is this year, they're going to have more of a chance, even with an average to below average line, of at least making some things happen because of their mobility, especially Trubisky and Pickett.
Yeah, I think that's key. And I think because you've got some mobility back there, it'll keep defenses honest on rollouts, bootlegs, and whatnot from under center. So it might open up more lanes for Najee Harris too. And hopefully it works in kind of a circular pattern where the passing game, whether that's scheme or actual success in it, opens up the running game. And then the running game opens up the passing game because of that. And you take a lot of pressure off the offensive line if those things work. If the offensive line goes from one of the worst in the league to about average this year, then I think you've got a better quarterback situation this year. No offense to Roethlisberger, but and fit from a physical standpoint, I should say. From a mental standpoint, got some catching up to do. Obviously, Roethlisberger, 18 years in the league, but an average O-line opens up some rushing lanes and doesn't or works their assignments well to let the quarterbacks move around in the pocket and outside the pocket. I think you're in better shape.
That's good stuff. And this you brought up something I wanted to ask you. Najee Harris, what are you expecting from him in his second year? I mean, this is his offense now in a lot of ways, because you have three relative unknowns at quarterback for the time being, anyway.
Right.
So do you think this is going to be his team this year? Do you think he's going to be able to top what he did last year? You think he's going to be able to improve upon that?
Yes, and I think it's going to be an improvement in efficiency. So if you consider the fact that his number of carries might go down this year, his number of touches overall, because the Steelers recognize that despite his desire to be on the field all the time, you can't do that and stay healthy all through a 17-game season. It's going to be hard to do that. So if his carries were to go down a few, but his efficiency goes up, and I think he was at 3.9 yards per carry this last year, just under 4. If that goes up 4.5 yards carry, right, you don't need him to take as much of a load because it's more efficient. That's going to open up the passing game a lot more, like we just talked about. I would expect Najee Harris to be pushing for the league lead in rushing yardage by the end of the year. Volume's going to be there, despite talking about the fact that he might not touch the ball quite as much. The volume is still going to be there. And if the efficiency improves, then you've got a guy who's looking at a disappointing season in his eyes, I'm sure he'd tell you this, if he doesn't get at least the 1,200 yards that he got last year, and maybe more. But the guy's a workhorse. He works hard. He's gonna be a tough tackle. He's gonna make guys think twice before meeting him head on in the hole. And I think there's gonna be a few more holes this year than he had last year.
Yeah, I absolutely love the guy. I think he has a chance to be, as far as like an ambassador, the next Jerome Bettis. He has that kind of personality. He cares about the community. He cares about contributing to the community. He's a team leader. You heard so many things about how he kept things together at Alabama.
Yes.
He brought, when there were some tough times, both on the field and in society, he brought the team together. So, I mean, I think he's going to be a great superstar here. And especially if Kenny Pickett is your quarterback in 2022. I mean, there's a guy you can lean on, a workhorse running back like that, who's not afraid to carry the ball and carry for tough yards too. So one more thing is I just love, I love talking about this stuff. I was listening to Jerry Dulac the other day, and he predicted that Kendrick Green, who struggled mightily last year at center, but has been moved to a guard, I guess, officially now.
Oh, wow.
He predicted that he thinks Green is going to be the starting left guard over Kevin Dotson. What are your thoughts on that?
I guess I'll believe it when I see it. But it's definitely plausible. I think Green's problem last year was actually that he was kind of thrown into the fire on an offensive line that was really young, and Trey Turner had lost a step from his years as being a defensive or a decent player. So he didn't have any help to either side of him, really. He's having to call the blocking assignments at the line of scrimmage. He's having to cater to a quarterback who likes things a certain way in his offense, as far as cadence and count and snaps, and not under center a lot, and so he's had a lot of things pulling his mind in different directions. And I'm not saying that guard doesn't have a mental process to it as well, but it's not quite as detailed and involved pre-snap. So I think if he can just stop thinking so much and play, the tenacity and athleticism is undeniable when you watch him on film at Illinois. That's why he was picked by the Steelers in the 3rd round. So if he puts that together and he can just play and not think, that I could see it happening, especially if Dotson shows a lackadaisical attitude or what have you going into training camp. I just see Dotson as the physically more intimidating, more punishing blocker, and I think that that's what this offense needs from their offensive line. So that's what I would go with at this point.
Yeah, there seems to be an issue with Dotson, as far as, like Shannon mentions it quite a bit. He's more of as you said, he's more of a tenacious, straight ahead road grader type, and I guess they're switching more to an athletic kind of zone blocking scheme. Do you think Dotson has the footwork or the athleticism to adapt to that, or do you think he has to fit just one style?
I think he's more of a straight line guy. Stay in your lane and stop the guys that are on that side of the ball. I think it's better for him to be able to focus on something like that, but I don't necessarily agree with the sentiment that he can't get outside, that he can't pull and be athletic and do what he needs to do from that perspective. So given a chance to get healthy and a chance to show what he's capable of, I think he will fit all those areas very well. And I think the fact that he's going to most likely have 2 veteran guys to his right helping him out. Mason Cole, I believe, will be the starting center come week 1. And then James Daniels, who's a pro's pro and a young guy, but a guy who knows what he's doing. That's going to help all across the board for these guys. Dotson's going to have a role model in those two guys to look up to this year. I think it works out for Dotson. I think he's going to be a good player.
Yeah, I'm excited about the line overall. I think, it wasn't going to happen. I've said this many times. It wasn't going to happen in one off season. They weren't going to go from a totally old and washed up line to, 4 or 5 new guys in 2021 and have them all perform in sync. You're going to have some growing pains. You're going to have to find out some things, maybe replace some guys and bring new blood in. So I'm really excited. I think at the very least they could be average this year, which, as you said earlier, is going to be much better than what we've seen the last 2 years. So,
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's going to be, it should make a world of difference for that offense. This is Chris Pugh, who is a part of the BTSC family, and he does Chris Pugh, he does the Steelers half-hour power hour, and he says, I want to see the Steelers pick up a backup to take pressure off Harris, David Johnson, maybe. What do you think about that? I know that Mike Tomlin isn't necessarily keen on not running the wheels off of his young running back. Right. So if he does that this year, if he departs from that philosophy this year, I'd be surprised. What do you think?
Well, I think I saw on social media that David Johnson was asked about that, and he said that he would enjoy the opportunity to play for Mike Tomlin and play for the Steelers. But every player says that, right? They want to go play for Mike Tomlin if they can.
Right.
I think that on paper, it looks like a fantastic move. For the Steelers, it looks like a fantastic move. But how will David Johnson feel when he gets here and he gets 5 touches a game, 5 carries a game, maybe even less than that, 5 snaps a game even, So that didn't fly with LeGarrette Blount in I think it was 2015 or 2016, somewhere around there. Oh, 2014, yeah, sorry.
No,
didn't fly there with LeGarrette Blount. It didn't fly with Melvin Ingram last year, playing behind Alex Highsmith. These veteran guys that have had some success, it's hard for them to take a back seat. I'm not saying David Johnson would struggle with that necessarily, but man, that would, on paper, that would be absolutely incredible for the Steelers to land a guy like David Johnson with his versatile skill set and his experience, helping a guy like Najee from a mental standpoint in the game too, where Najee has all the physical attributes. I think you saw a little bit last year that he started thinking, especially when he was pass blocking and when he was having to make plays behind the line of scrimmage.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little harder. So maybe a guy like David Johnson gives you a little bit more experience in that area and just a wall to bounce questions off of. I'd love the pickup for the Steelers. I would love for it to work out. But it could be something that the Steelers like, I don't know if we're going to dip into these veteran waters again and bring in another hostage when we got volunteers aplenty already. So,
yeah, they've been burned too many times, as you mentioned. Yeah. I think, Benny Snell is a perfectly fine backup, but David Johnson would be an upgrade over him.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think you want to rely on Benny Snell to take over a game if Harris goes out. But I think maybe McFarland takes a step this year, healthy.
Right.
And his speed is something to always keep note of. So I would love it if he really took a step forward this year. I think the Steelers would love that too, because he could be the lightning to Najee's thunder in a really good way for this offense.
Yeah, the speed is undeniable. And we've been hearing for 3 years about how he has a history with Matt Canada and from Maryland. So, if he could finally figure things out in year 3 and stop running in place, he did, it would bode well because he's certainly a fantastic weapon if he can develop from the college to the pros. The thing about David Johnson is you would hope that he's D'Angelo Williams, not LeGarrette Blount, but you don't know that until they get here because they say all the right things in training camp. And as you say right now, I'd love to play for Mike Tomlin, but until they're here, until they're sitting on the bench getting, as you said, 3 carries a game, if that, you don't know how they're going to react. And D'Angelo Williams was a dream. I mean, he was.
Oh man, loved him.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think he led the league or was leading the league in rushing or rushing touchdowns or something like that when Le'Veon Bell came back that 2015 season. I get those years mixed up.
Well,
But
it was back-to-back years. He missed the
yeah.
first couple of years in 2014.
Oh,
No.
suspension,
2015
right?
and 2016. He was suspended both at
Yeah,
the beginning of both seasons. Yeah.
yeah, and he performed well in Le'Veon Bell's absence in the regular season too from injury. I think I don't remember which year that was again, but still the guy was an incredible presence in the locker room. I think that was part of it. When he came in, the team had no problem blocking for him, taking care of him, just like they did for Bell, because they knew he put in the work and he wasn't complaining. And so, man, that was big time for the Steelers back then. If David Johnson could come in and be that for the Steelers, then sign me up every day of the week.
Absolutely. Yeah, that run you're talking about, that offensive run that he had and the team had, was after Bell was lost with a torn MCL midway through 2015.
Right.
And it was the best Steelers offense I've ever seen. It was like 5-6 games in a row they were averaging 30 points a game.
Yeah.
And he stepped in, and it was every bit as vital to that offense as Bell was when he was in there. But then when Bell came back, Williams sat on the bench. You never heard a peep out of him as far as any kind of complaints.
Right.
But when it was time for him to play, he was ready. So that's the dream veteran. But like I've said before in articles, the ego is the last thing to go on these big time athletes. When you're used to being the guy, and it's one thing to come in to the league as a backup, like Benny Snell and people like that, Robert Spillane. But when you're the guy for so many years, to go from that to being a backup, it's probably it's harder than we ever realized for these guys.
Yep, absolutely.
This one from Steelers Freak. Writing about egos, I believe Canada will have a better opportunity because the quarterback will actually listen to him this year. None of the quarterbacks have ego leverage on him. That's true. Sure. Not yet, anyway. Not yet.
Right. Yeah. Trubisky throw 30 touchdown passes this year. That might change, but no, it'll be because of the system. That's a difference. And Canada came into a tough sitch with the aging Roethlisberger. I think if Canada gets a early mid 2010s Roethlisberger, that it's going to be a lot different, a much different story than it was, because Roethlisberger just couldn't move like he used to, and he also liked a specific style of play, and I think you saw that too with Brady in Tampa. He was not about this vertical offense that Bruce Arians was always a proponent of, even in Pittsburgh, and even with Jameis Winston there at quarterback for a while. Brady got in, and you saw immediately some of the dynamics change as far as spreading the field, getting these guys on hot routes and quick reads, and more spread type offenses with less work in the running backs and the running game, setting up the passing game. So it worked for the Bucs. It didn't necessarily work for Matt Canada and the Steelers. Right. I think you really saw Ben's age start to show there the last couple of years, especially second half of 2020. First half of 2020, I thought Ben was sharp. I thought he was a genuine MVP candidate that year, the way he was playing. And, maybe that's an unpopular take, but I thought so. And it just kind of fell off a cliff for him.
Yeah.
And I think Matt Canada is going to be excited to work with a young guy who can be molded, like Steelers Freak is saying there. It's going to be unique, or it's going to be super neat to see how that works. And I wrote an if article. If this happens, or if these things happen this year, the Steelers will go from contender, like just playoff contender, to actual, hey, this team could be legit. And one of those things was that Matt Canada's offense clicks with this young quarterback situation, Najee Harris and all that. If that happens, you've got a team that, combined with a step up on the defensive side, has plenty of weapons, plenty of potential to be a difference-making team in the AFC.
Oh yeah, there's no question. The skill position players are apparent. I mean, obviously, Pickens, you don't know about him yet. Austin the third,
Yeah.
they're unknowns. Until they prove it on the field at the pro level, they're unknowns. But I think Chase Claypool still has a chance to be a huge star. I think
Yes.
Deontay Johnson is. I mean, for what he's accomplished these past 3 years with the quarterback play and the troubles with the offense, I think he should be getting more credit for that. And I think his problems with drops have a lot to do with having to catch the ball in traffic all the time. Yeah, I think that has to wear on you as a receiver. Every time you catch a ball, there's like 3 guys there and ready to pound you. So I think Pat Fryermuth is going to be a stud. I think he's going to be an all-pro tight end, and obviously Najee Harris he's already on his way to being a star. So if you can find a quarterback to mesh with Matt Canada's offense, and this line continues to improve, actually improves from the last couple of years, starts to improve, then this could be something special, because I think the defense is going to be good. Provided they continue to get after the passer like they've had the last 5 or 6 years. I think this defense is going to be pretty darn good again. So
and if they can just start holding teams to fewer points, I think that's the biggest part. They don't necessarily have to be number one in terms of yardage, or even top 5 in terms of yardage. But if they are top 5 in terms of scoring, then this team looks really good come December, I think, especially with a middle of the schedule where you could see them, if they've figured things out on offense and the defense is playing well, you could see them reeling off 5, 6, 7 wins in a row in the middle of the season, kind of bookended by some tougher start and tougher finish to the season as well. So they could be making a playoff push in the middle of the season. You could be looking at power rankings across the national media in the middle of the season and be like, man, our Steelers are moving up quick. And then, it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm excited about the possibilities. It's a young team across the board. They have a young roster, and obviously there's a lot to be hopeful for with these at least 2 of the young quarterbacks anyway. Hopefully all 3. So it's been a fun show, Jeremy. I think we should probably call it a night. Thank everybody in the live chat for your awesome participation and questions and comments. And
thank you guys.
Yeah, and don't forget to check out Jeremy and Andrew Wilbar this Tuesday, right?
That's right. This Tuesday we're going to record tomorrow night and get it sent out, and it'll air on all platforms, all podcast platforms, audio platforms on Tuesday at noon Eastern time. So don't forget to check that out.
I will check it out on my iHeartRadio app on my smart TV. I love iHeartRadio.
Shameless plug there. Are they paying you for that?
No.
Okay. Wow, that's for free, man. Alive. Tony, giving out free ads here.
I love iHeartRadio. I don't know. I just love it. So, and I'll be back with you guys tomorrow on The Hangover with Brian Anthony Davis and Shannon White. But check out all of our podcasts, both live and audio, and check out the website. Check out Jeremy's work on the website. If you feel like it, check out mine. But I can certainly see why you wouldn't want to do that. But either way, you guys have a great night. And until we see you again, have a great week and go Steelers, everybody. Take care.
Happy Father's Day, everybody.
Happy Father's Day.